So you've upped your running mileage, but you're starting to feel pain on the outside of your knee. You do a little search on Google and it says you have ITB Syndrome. Well, what is this and what can you do about it? In this video, I'll show you exactly how. If you're new here, my name is George and this is Joe, and we're both physiotherapists who've made it our mission to help athletes like you cross the finish line feeling your best. We do this by offering online physiotherapy and strength and conditioning coaching, and we regularly upload videos to this channel, so if you are new here, make sure to click that subscribe button. So what is the IT band? Well, ITB stands for the iliotibial band, and it is a strong piece of connective tissue that runs down the outside of your thigh. It originates from your hip bone and it comes all the way down and inserts into the lateral part of your knee. It helps to stabilize your knee and also your hip whilst you're walking, you're running and you're cycling. So for us triathletes and us endurance athletes, it can be an issue. There are two main muscles that attach into this band of connective tissue, and they are the TFL or tensor fasciae lata and the gluteus maximus. Well, what is ITB syndrome? Well, there has been some research recently which has changed our understanding of ITB syndrome, and we now understand that the syndrome itself is due to a compression on the lateral part of your knee, which compresses a fat pad which is highly innervated. This compression over time is why we tend to feel pain in that area. This is different to our previous understanding where we used to think that the connective tissue was creating friction over one of our bones, but we now know that isn't true. So what are the symptoms? Well, pain from the ITB is likely going to equate to pain on the outside of your knee. You're also going to get pain during certain activities. Now the classics are walking downstairs, cycling and running. You'll also probably feel a tightness on the outside of your thigh and connecting into your knee. And you may also feel a snapping sensation when you are walking and when you are running. So how does this happen in the first place? How can you go from being happy in training, smashing your running, to starting to then feel this nagging pain and it's only getting worse? Well, the main reason this happens for endurance athletes is when you do too much too soon. And that could equate to doing a big increase in mileage in running or cycling and not allowing enough time to recover. And this is where you're going past your body's current capacity or its tolerance. But we also know that it can also come from the way that you run or cycle and the actual biomechanics of the movement. If, for example, your biomechanics aren't necessarily efficient for your running and cycling, it can put extra pressure into that area and cause more of a compressive strain, and this then can lead to more pain. But we'll talk about that later. So how about we solve the problem then? You have a race coming up and your knee hurts every time you run. Let's figure out a plan together on how you can go from pain to PB performance. Let's have the example of running. In this initial stage, we're going to want to reduce the amount of running. But what does it actually mean? Well, you could decrease the intensity of running, which means that you are running at a lower intensity, a lower pace, a lower heart rate zone. Or it means that you can decrease the total volume of your training. So maybe you go from 6 miles a week to 3 miles a week. Or you can decrease the frequency of how much you are running. So it might go from 3 times a week to just once a week. If you have access to a treadmill, you can do uphill walking, or if you have a exercise bike, or if cycling isn't a trigger for this pain, you can cycle with a lower seat. In this stage for a triathlete, it is really important to maintain your capacity or maintain your fitness. So what you can do is you can up your volume of swimming, again, if that's not a trigger for you. And at the same time, what we're going to be looking to do is we're going to be looking to introduce rehab exercises to build your load tolerance of the ITB and the surrounding areas. So we're going to start with these exercises. We're going to start with the clamshell, the side lying abduction, and the split squat isometric. We're going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 for each exercise, and we're going to be looking to do that once every other day. Once you can walk downstairs without feeling any pain, that is your ticket to then move on to the next stage. So in this stage, we're going to be looking to do one thing and one thing only. That is introducing heavy, slow resistance training. And we're going to be wanting to do this at least 3 to 4 times a week until your running gets back to a pain-free level. So we're going to be looking to progress to these exercises as shown. The split squat, the step up, the long lever bridge, the side plank, the banded crab walk, and the calf and soleus raises. As you can see from these exercises, we are targeting all of the muscles and the muscle groups in the lower limb, and that way we can build up our load tolerance generally in our body and get back to running feeling stronger. Within this stage, we can also maintain that uphill treadmill walking and cycling, and also maintain the volume of swimming. In order to progress to stage 3, you're going to need to hit a couple milestones to be able to do that. And they are to be pain-free during descending stairs, squatting and performing single leg exercises, to be able to hold a side plank for 30 seconds each side, to perform single leg bridges with good form for 15 reps per leg, and to complete split squats 3 sets of 8 to 10 without pain. If you're ticking those boxes, you get the ticket to then move on to stage 3, which is the plyometric stage. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the IT band acts very much like a tendon does, in that it stores energy and then releases it when we're doing activities. So in order to gear up these structures to then get back to walking and running, we're going to want to train them in a very specific way. And that's where plyometric exercises come in. So here in this stage, we have exercises, and we're going to start with the easier exercises and then build up to the more intense exercises, which are generally harder. So we'll start with mini squats. We'll then go on to reverse, lunge and hopping, progressing to lateral skaters with a step, moving on to split jumps, and then lastly to single leg hopping. Once you can complete 3 sets of 10 to 15 of these exercises without feeling any pain afterwards, you have then got your ticket to move on to stage 4. So stage 4 is returning to running. Now by this time you would have done all the hard work building up your strength and your tolerance by doing all the good rehab exercises, and you're probably itching to get back to running. Our advice would be to start running at a low intensity on a flat ground. And then over time, you can build back that intensity into your running and also build back that gradient. Remember, low and slow to start with, and be guided by your pain. Okay, that was our ITB Syndrome rehab process, but we do have some more top tips for you. If you are someone who has followed this program but is still getting issues with running, then it might be more about the biomechanics of your running. Now what you can do in this circumstance is that you can go and get a biomechanics assessment, and some running shops do this, and some local physiotherapists might do this. But there are some basic changes that you might be able to make which might have an impact on your running. When it comes to the ITB syndrome, you can increase your cadence by 5 to 10%. By increasing your stride length by 5 to 10%, this will decrease your stride length. It will widen the width of your feet when you run, and therefore it will reduce the compressive strain on the lateral aspect of your knee, which will hopefully then reduce your pain. Another top tip that we would give you is to carry on with strength and conditioning exercises after the pain has stopped. What we see a lot of people do is once the pain stops, the exercises stop. But you want to carry on building that tolerance as time goes on, especially when you get into the later parts of your training. A big one that we see online, and a big one that a lot of people come in and ask us about, is should I foam roll or should I stretch the ITB? But once you understand that the ITB acts much more like a tendon than it does a muscle, then there is no reason why you would want to stretch it or compress it on a foam roller. And actually this could make the symptoms a lot worse. There's also been some studies to show that the connective tissue strength is so strong that it would actually be physically impossible to stretch it by either doing static stretches or foam rolling. So you might be wasting your time a little bit there. The last top tip we've got for you is to check your footwear. Now, if you have shoes that are worn out, they're old, maybe you've done more than 200 miles running on them, you might want to consider replacing them or going to a running shop and getting their advice on what you should have for your type of foot type. If you're struggling with aches, pains, niggles that just won't go away, and you are training for a race that's coming up, you might want to consider joining up to our 7-day Cross the Finish Line workshop. In this workshop, we'll be looking at why up to 87% of triathletes struggle with overuse injuries in Ironman training, but why this is fully preventable, how to double check your training plan isn't setting you up for failure. We'll show you the quickest, easiest strength exercises to bulletproof your weak areas and skyrocket performance, and much, much more. So if this sounds interesting to you, remember it's completely free. All you have to do is sign up via the link down below. So maybe you've been watching this, but the pain on the outside of the knee is not the type of pain that you have. You have pain on the front of your knee. Well, that could be runner's knee, and we've got a video here which explains exactly what it is and exactly what you can do about it.